Hey, Taylor Elwood here, and today I thought I would talk about the topic of how to stay positive with your spirituality. It's kind of funny, I've been thinking about this topic all week in relationship to my own life, and I've been thinking about it. Actually, I had a conversation today with my manager at work, and we ended up talking about this topic in a roundabout way, but it really made sense to me. So I think that a lot of times, you know, if we look at the motivations, why do people get into magical practice? We find that a lot of the reasons is because people want a sense of control in their lives. They want a sense of power. I mean, I will freely and fully admit that when I was a 16-year-old teenager who was getting bullied all the time, that's why I got into magic. One of the reasons. I mean, there were other reasons. I was really curious and I wanted to learn more about the universe and I wanted to ask lots of questions and all of that, but I also got into magic because I wanted to feel like I had a sense of control in my life. I was tired of getting picked on and I wanted something that could give me an edge. And I think that that's the reason a lot of people get into magical practice. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, let's just be honest here. You know, that is a reason. It's not a bad thing in and of itself. But then, you find that a lot of times people can kind of start to power trip on, the fact that they're practicing magic. And don't get me wrong, magic is a potent tool that can help you bring change to your life. But at the same time, I think sometimes people can let it go to their head. And again, speaking as someone who's let magic go to their head sometimes, I'm not pointing a finger at anyone else without pointing, some back at me. I can safely say that I've definitely had that kind of situation happen on occasion in my life. It is what it is. It's just part of growing up and experiencing things, and it's part of growing up with your spirituality. But I think that there does come a time where you say, okay, do I want to go through my life with my spiritual practice throwing curses at people or trying to control situations, or do I want to use this as a way to improve my life and improve who I am as a person? And I think that there is that interesting question. Now, some people will say, well, I do magic the way that I do, or I throw curses or whatever, because if people mess with me, I'm going to mess with them back, or whatever else. And I get that. And speaking as someone who grew up with a model in my life about revenge, I'm going to tell you the model I grew up with in my life. My dad modeled this to me, and it's not a good thing. My dad's philosophy was, when someone screwed you over, you screwed them over harder. And I went through my life that way a lot of the time. I mean, I would say the majority of my life, that is in part how I carried myself. Someone screwed me over, I'd try and find a way to screw them over harder. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I haven't. When I think about it, all the time I put that energy into trying to screw someone over harder because of a perceived or real thing that they did to me. It seems like I wasted a lot of that energy and a lot of that effort on something that was really ultimately pretty stupid. I mean, did doing that really help me out in any meaningful way? Did it make my life better? Not really. If I'm being brutally honest, no, not really. It might have given me a brief moment of satisfaction, but it didn't really help me become a better person. It certainly didn't help that person out in any way, shape, or form. Gradually, over time, I've come to realize that the best approach to life really is, and to your spirituality and anything else in general, is really about living your life in a manner that is healthy and good for you. It's not about getting back at people. It's not about screwing them over. It's about taking care of yourself. And so I think, the question of how do you stay positive in your spiritual practice without, whatever, really comes right down to how do you approach your life. And I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying that you should go through and let yourself get walked all over, okay? I'm not a believer in that at all. I mean, if someone does mess with me, I will take appropriate steps to handle that situation. But I think there's a very real difference between setting boundaries and protecting yourself, and going all out to try and screw someone over because you perceive that they screwed you over, or what have you. You know, there's a very real difference there. And at one time, I would have taken the latter approach, and now, in my life, I take the former approach. And again, I'm not gonna say that I've always been that way. I've had to learn this lesson the hard way in life. I have done some stupid stuff over the course of my life at times just because I felt like someone screwed with me. And it was dumb. I mean, in the end, it didn't really help me. It didn't help that person. It just, and in some cases, it just really portrayed me in an unflattering light, you know. And as a result, you know, people would say, okay, there's that Taylor Elwood guy, and he's an asshole. Now, whose fault is that? Now all the fingers are pointed at me, right? And I mean, that's the thing to think about with your own spiritual practice or anything like that, is who is it really benefiting for you to try and take revenge or to go all out against someone? And again, I want to be very clear. There's a difference between establishing boundaries and trying to screw someone over. You know, if someone's trying to screw me over and I establish a boundary, that boundary might be that I block them from my life, you know? I cut all connections with them. It may be that, you know, I cut off all contact, and that I just choose to go on and live my life the best way possible without really focusing on them. You know, this is something I had to do a little over a year ago. In some ways, I had someone where it became clear that our friendship was no longer going to work, and we parted ways. I'm not going to say I handled it in the best light, because I didn't. There were some things I did that were pretty stupid, which in retrospect I wish I could take back. But one of the things I did do that I feel was a positive thing is that I did cut off all contact with that person. That person chose to cut off all contact with me as well, and we just went our mutual way. You know, and really that's the best thing that could possibly come of that. I don't know what that person's doing now. I don't check up on them. I don't, you know, follow anything that person's doing. I just live my life and do the best I can with my life. And vice versa, hopefully in his case as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, could I spend time wishing him harm? I could, but what good is that going to do him or me? It's wasted energy on my part. It doesn't do anything for him other than maybe having to deal with it. Or I can choose to spend my life doing my own thing, wish him the best, but at the same time be like, yeah, I don't want you in my life. And I think really that's the way to handle things. I can't say that it's how I always would have handled things, and I'm still a work in progress on this myself. I will fully and freely admit that. But I think that, you know, if you want to live your life in a quote-unquote positive manner, you have to be good at establishing boundaries for yourself. You have to know when to protect yourself and take care of yourself, because the fact is, stuff comes up. You know, shit happens. People get upset. People get angry. People decide they don't like you for whatever reason. And so they decide to do things to screw you over or hurt you or whatever else. And so you do need to be able to protect yourself and take care of yourself. But beyond that, you also have to be able to protect yourself from you. And that's where this comes into play, because there is that part of you that might say, well, I want to get revenge. I want to screw that person over. I want to do whatever. And I mentioned today that I had this conversation with my manager, and it kind of relates, because we were talking about stress at work, and one of the things he said to me is, he's like, look, you know, you're not in control of everything in your workplace. You know, you're gonna have stress. You're gonna have upset customers or whatever. How do you handle that? You can either let it get to you through the rest of the day and leave upset and unhappy, or you can accept it in the moment and accept that it's there, and then let it go and move on to the next thing. And I thought that was good advice, and it's something I'm going to work on at work, because I realized that I was carrying that stress. Yeah, I was getting rid of it at the end of the day with exercise and meditation, which is good, but why even carry it that far? Do I really have to? And the answer is no. And the same thing applies to our spiritual journey. You know, we don't have to carry the stress in our lives with us all the time. We don't have to bring it into our spirituality. We don't have to bring it into our life in general. And you probably, part of you might be saying, well, those are easy words, Taylor. And I know it's not an easy action. It takes work. Trust me, as someone who has taken as long as I have to get to this point in my life, I know how hard it is. But it's worth doing, because when you take care of yourself in that way, when you protect yourself from yourself, then you're also improving the quality of your life, and you're enjoying your life more. When I learned to stop holding grudges and to start letting go of things, that's when my life became better. And again, I'm not saying that this is something that came easily to me. I mean, if I'm to be honest with you, I mean, this is something that's fairly recent in some ways for me. I mean, I've really had to work on this a lot in the last few years in particular. And it's a work in progress. But as I've become more aware of these flaws in my own nature, I have continued to work on them. And I will tell you, some stuff that's really helped me is there's some excellent books by the author Brené Brown on shame and you know, like and feelings along those lines. And I highly recommend those books because they can be very helpful in learning to work through these things. You know, we talk about magic and how magic can bring change to our life, but I think that one of our roles as a magician is that we also need to learn how to take care of ourselves, and so we look for other resources just outside of magic as well. And I found those books to be very helpful in my spiritual journey because it really helped me to look at, well, where am I coming from? Where do these feelings come from? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And how do I carry myself as a result? You know, what's really going on? If I'm feeling anger toward this person and I want to take it out on them, what's really going on? Yeah, there may be some anger there toward that person, but how much of it is also stuff that's being directed toward me? Well, big surprise here, a lot of it was being directed toward me, but that person ended up being the convenient outlet. And I think that's the case anytime. So I mean, if you want to be positive in your spirituality, you have to build in things that allow you to protect yourself from other people. Know how to set boundaries. Know what your boundaries are. Know what you need to do to take care of yourself. Don't tolerate toxic people in your life. Because if someone is toxic for you or you're toxic for them, it's just not a healthy relationship. It's not worth continuing to carry it on. But the other thing you want to do is you need to protect yourself from you, because guess what? At the end of the day, you can't get away from you. And part of that really is doing that necessary internal work, taking care of yourself, looking at your habits and behaviors. I mean, if someone's going out of your life, you may not be able to reconcile that friendship or anything else, but the least you can do, and you owe it to both yourself and that person, is to take a look at what got you there. What did you do to contribute to that? And that's something I've really spent a lot of time looking at over the last year, because I came close to alienating some friends, and I did alienate a friendship that I'll never be able to get back. And I did some stupid stuff, and that's on me. It's not on anyone else, and I've had to do that work, and I am doing that work so that it doesn't happen again. So I just share that with you. That's kind of my hard-earned wisdom for you for the day. You know, and I'm making this video because someone had asked, how do you stay positive? Well, this is my answer. I don't know if that helps you or not. I'm not going to be all butterflies and rainbows and unicorns and all that other stuff, because the fact of the matter is, the choice to be positive really is the choice to protect yourself. It's the choice to look at, the behavior that you know is unacceptable to you from other people, but also the behavior that is unacceptable from yourself. And that's an ongoing journey. I mean, that's not something you figure out in one day. And the one thing I will say in regards to the latter thing with yourself is be gentle with yourself. I mean, we all make mistakes. We're human. We're not perfect. I say that as somebody who's definitely been a flawed person and will likely be a flawed person the rest of my life. I'm doing the best I can to work with those flaws and become a better person, but it's an ongoing journey, and I'll be the first to admit when I fucked up. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day and all that other good stuff. Take care.